Well, that annual tradition has come again. It's give your money to Apple Day.
So my favorite part when I quit working at Tested in 2015 was that I never had to wait in line and deal with the internet bullshit or get in line at an Apple store on the morning at 2:00 in the morning or any of that stuff to get a new iPhone again. And here I am.
Old habits die hard, right? I didn't realize there were that many permutations of the process over the years. I guess it did start with physically having to go get in line, right?
It used to be that on the Friday that it came out, you went and got in line at usually Gary or Norm and I would get in line at 11 o'clock at night. And then we'd sit there in lawn chairs with sleeping bags until 6 o'clock in the morning when they brought coffee around, which was nice. Like the Apple store people would bring a Starbucks tray and hand people Danishes and coffee, which was nice when you're spending $600 on a phone.
Well, hey, when you're a $2.5 trillion company, you could probably afford a little coffee for people.
Yeah. Yeah. But then I think the 4S, was the first time they did an on sale thing, a digital thing. And then it just delivered. I believe, I could be wrong, but I think that was the year we did the first October cast. And they arrived while we were midway through that show.
Oh, what a great stunt for your 24-hour podcast. New iPhones.
It was fantastic. It killed a whole hour. It was great.
A whole fascinating hour of three dudes just heads down staring at a phone and occasionally saying, cool.
Well, look, it was mostly Gary and me trying to get Siri to say curse words for a pretty good length of time.
That's good content.
And then, so anyway, I got up this morning at 5. Gina did the same thing because we're both gluttons. We're going on a trip at the end of the month and we want to have, we wanted to have the new cameras for the trip, which makes sense.
On. What phones are you on now?
I don't want to talk about it. I have a 13 Pro.
Mm-hmm.
So she's on the upgrade thing. So she gets the new phone every year, right?
Like without no muss, no fuss. Just they ship it automatically.
No, there's never no muss, no fuss because you have to make choices and you have to do a contract and all that stuff.
I mean, that's the God. I forget how it works. That's the pay as you go, and then you can just upgrade to the next phone by just saying, "Give me the new phone," and then you keep paying. See,
there are 3 plans.
Oh boy.
Yeah, there's if you have an Apple card, their credit card,
yes, then
you can just finance it for $25 to $60 or $80 a month or something, depending on which phone you buy. If you have minus whatever you trade in, right? So they'll finance whatever the difference between the trade in and the cost of the phone, no interest for the 2 years. They also do that with a Citizens One loan. That's basically the same exact deal, but you don't have to have an Apple card. And then there's the iPhone upgrade plan, which is kind of good if you didn't have a phone to trade in when you were doing it. And it's financing the full price, but every 12 months, you basically can hit the button and get a new phone.
Right. And then you're starting the whole financing process over. Right?
No, it's just never ending. So if you do it for 24 months in a row, then you get the phone for free. I don't think the iPhone upgrade plan is actually I think it's a bad deal.
I mean, setting aside the math, I'm sure we could do the math and say, yes, this is worth it. No, it's not. Just psychologically, the idea that you would never actually fully own your phone is just a little ugh.
If you are upgrading the phone every year. So the trade-in plus the financing is what I have traditionally done just to not pay $1,200 once a year and then get $600 back a few weeks later when you trade in the old phone. The upgrade plan kind of made sense because it used to be like a fast pass through and you got Apple Care for free. That was the benefit of doing the upgrade plan.
Oh, okay. That's a pretty good value add.
Yeah. It feels less good to me and it doesn't seem like it accommodates trade-in value when you jump into the plan. So I don't understand exactly how it works. It the math didn't when I did that, I was like, I'm going to keep doing the financing thing or just pay the $600 because it doesn't seem like it's saving me anything to do the upgrade plan at this point. And I'll pay for Apple Care or maybe just buy a case. I don't know. But yeah, so I got up at 5 because Apple hates people on the West Coast.
Yeah, why do they do it so early?
I think so that they thin out the number of people who are going to sign up so that they can have more of a jet. But it was a complete shit show today. It was maybe they've done this a lot over the years. And this is the first time I've ever had problems with online ordering that were substantial and not related to a carrier. Like for one, the store page had hey, we're ready. We're going to be ready at 5 a.m. for you to order your phone until about 5:10.
Mm-hmm.
like I was looking on Twitter and seeing people posting their receipts and like, oh, I can pick up my phone next Friday. Great. And by the time that went away, I put my order in and got to the page where Verizon was like, hey, we need to confirm your stuff so you can activate this phone on day one. And then that stalled out and failed 15 times in a row or something. And, like this is, I realize first worldiest to first world problems. Like this is complete asshole level complaining about stuff.
Well, especially now that you don't have a professional obligation here.
I kind of do. We talk about it here. It's a topic.
I don't know that this podcast makes us professionals, but go on.
I mean, it's my last desperate gasp of professionality.
You're a recovering tech professional.
Yeah. So anyway, I went through multiple variations and transitioned from, hey, you can order it, it'll arrive on the 16th by mail, to, hey, if you go pick it up at Stonestown, it'll be there on the 16th, to, hey, if you go pick it up at Union Square, it'll be there on the 16th, to, hey, if you drive down to Corte Madera, it'll be there on the 16th, to, man, it's coming in October, dog. And so I hit the button, and then I realized that the problem I had was the color choice that I made of the phone that I picked. So I picked the Max in silver, which apparently was either very popular or they made very few of. And if I had picked any of the other Maxes, any of the other color Maxes, I could have picked it up on the 16th. But of course, you can't cancel your order once it's in the pipeline because high volume on launch day. So I'll have a phone in October, I guess. Probably my guess is that it's probably going to arrive about the time that we leave on the trip. So it'll sit on the front porch for a few days unless one of my neighbors is around. So I'm not feeling great, Brad. Not feeling great.
Look, man, you feed the machine. Sometimes you get chewed up along with it.
This was not the desired outcome. Welcome to Brad and Will Made a Tech Pod. I'm Will.
I am Brad. Hello.
Wow, no contractions today. Really formaling it up. You get that NPR voice.
I watched a little bit of Next Generation the last couple nights. Maybe I've just got data on the brain.
Yeah, he doesn't use contractions, does he?
I don't think
That's part of one of the chips he gets later, isn't it?
I think that might be something that they sort of retconned, that they kind of went back and forth on. Like we don't need to get into a Star Trek discussion, but he is weirdly like quasi-human in some ways in the first couple seasons before they decided like, oh, he's just a computer on legs.
Well, I mean, I thought that was a lore. Wasn't that a lore? Like how they distinguished lore one time was he used contractions? I
think you might be right. I think it might be a case where it's like you can find 3 or 4 episodes where they slipped up and he did or something along those lines. But like there's a lot of weird stuff in those first 2 seasons of him like smirking and having some like weird little human traits here and there. Anyway.
Well, he's constantly working on his programming, Brad. It's clear. Yeah, it's very clear that, besides he's fully functional. So, hey, it was Apple week this week, Brad.
It was
the Appleiest week of the year. We had some Cortlands down here. I had a Fuji earlier this week.
Oh man, we have had 2. I'm guessing they're probably red delicious.
Oh man,
they're red. They're probably delicious. They've been sitting in the kitchen for like a month.
They're probably not going to be that delicious these days. If they're like red delicious, best picked right off the tree and jammed straight into your face hole.
Apples seem to last a while though.
Some more than others. My like, what's your ranking of apples? What's your number one apple?
This is pathetic because I literally come from the land of apples. I don't know how it was where you're at.
I had an apple tree in my backyard.
Okay, yeah, the climate, like literally we have an apple festival where I live. Like there is so much apple-based agriculture out there.
I've been to your apple festival.
Oh, you really?
I had pressed cider in the city of your youth.
We never went. I can't remember a single time I actually went to the apple festival. Anyway, given all of that, it's pathetic that I can't I couldn't tell you a Granny Smith from a
none.
That's about it. It's Red Delicious and Granny Smith. That's
Fuji Honey Crisp Cortland for me, probably.
Wait, are Honey Crisp and Cortland not separate distinctions?
They are separate. Fuji's number one with a bullet, Honeycrisp, and then Cortland.
I misunderstood.
I like a Cortland.
Fuji, huh?
Fuji has a real nice sweetness to it. They're crisp. They stay firm. They last a long time. They'll sit on the counter and age well. And it has just a really light sweetness with a little bit of tang. It's a good apple.
Should we do an agriculture episode sometime? What's the thing I found out recently that a ton of things like apples are basically like clones?
Oh, yeah. Every banana. Well, there's several species of bananas, but almost everything that you get commercially produced is a clone of the same banana. I feel like we've talked about the banana blight of the 50s that finished the Gros Michel.
We probably have, but I think I was specifically reading about apple trees. Like the idea is essentially that like the seeds that come from the plants that are grown can't be used for subsequent generations of crops. Like they have to keep going back to the same generation because like, I guess it's just like natural variations, right? Like they want a predictable product. And so Yeah.
The same thing happened with like chickens are weird too. Cause in the pre-industrial farming, there were dozens to hundreds of varieties of chickens, so like breeds of chickens.
From a ranking of apples to a ranking of chickens. What do you got?
I don't know the chickens, man. But there's a guy in Oklahoma or Kansas, I can't remember where, that collects he has a chicken collection, and he has the different species of chickens, the different breeds of chickens that are all bred for different things. So,
boy, I've got a list here. So I guessed the leghorn.
Yeah, of course, because of foghorn leghorn.
That's right.
I say, sir. I said, sir.
Wow. Let's see.
There's a lot of different kinds of chickens, dude.
There's the Plymouth Rock chicken. There's the Silky. There's the Sussex, the Lowman Brown, the Rhode Island Red. People
have a lot of pride in their chicken names.
Wow. That was just a tiny list that I have now expanded to find. Dude, there are dozens.
It's like dogs.
Japanese Bantam, the Frizzle, the Naked Neck, the Amrock, the New Hampshire.
There are as many of them as there are. It is literally, they've been domesticated for so long. There are so many variants, and some of them are like made for meat, and some of them are made for egg laying, and some of them are made for like small egg laying, and some of them are made for sturdy shell egg laying, and it's crazy.
So if only they could breed a chicken that could lay an iPhone 14 Pro Max. Am I right?
Silver, please, silver. That was my downfall, was silver. Had I chosen anything other than silver, I'd be fine.
Had to go for vanity. I've got it in front of me. I'm not seeing. I have to pick a model.
Yeah, look, there's a flow. The flow broke multiple times along the way.
Wait, there's literally a color called deep purple this time?
Yeah, it's called. Brad, you're going to get a new phone, aren't you?
It's pretty good. I both love purple and also think that's a funny name.
Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't have a Prince song during the keynote. But anyway, we're going to talk about Apple stuff this week because it was kind of an unusually interesting Apple event this year, I would say. They did new AirPods, new AirPod Pros, rather, second gen AirPod Pros, three new watches, I guess, Series 8, the Apple Watch Ultra, and a new SE. That's kind of a minor upgrade. And then a bunch of new phones, new iPhone 14s, iPhone 14 Plus, and iPhone 14 Pros, both in normal size and the maximum, and like some cool stuff in there. So we'll talk about it. Where do you want to start, Brad? You got questions? You
put AirPods Pro at the top of this notes doc, and I'm not sure.
I think it's the most minor thing we can talk about in about 4 minutes.
Okay, just get it out of the way.
Yeah, they've got better battery and touch control for volume, and they say that the noise cancellation is better.
Oh. Various aspects of the product are generically better in some vague way. You don't say.
Well, so the first ones don't have a touch control for volume, which is pretty annoying.
Sorry, I meant like the noise canceling, which is, I'm sure you can absolutely quantify how much noise canceling is taking place, but just saying better noise canceling is like, of course.
They said it was 2 times better, which seems like a really difficult, it's not an absolute unit unless they're filtering out half the sound that they would have before.
Right.
It seems like the big thing is they have microphones inside the ear holes now, so they can hear what you're hearing.
Oh, interesting.
Which lets them do some seemingly more advanced math.
As opposed to what sound is only reaching the outside of the package.
Yeah. So they compare what's on the outside versus what they're canceling out, and yada, yada magic math happens.
Real quick, is there even a product on the market just called AirPods now? Like they are still shipping both versions?
Yeah, so they have 2 old AirPods. They have the AirPods 2 and the AirPods 3. The AirPods 3 don't have active noise canceling, but they do have
isolation.
No, they're still kind of just tuck into your ears like earpods always have. I can't remember the difference. The threes have smaller stumps, I think, and they do something that the other ones don't. I don't remember. I have to look on the matrix here.
Wait, these AirPods are from the matrix?
Yeah, they are in the matrix. They have longer battery life and they have the spatialized audio. So that's the difference. So the AirPods 3rd generation are sweat and water resistant, and they have like the chip that lets them do the UWB ultra wideband space tracking. Other than that, they're more or less the same.
Do you still use that? Do you still use the spatial? I know you seemed pretty hot on it when you first got those things.
I like it.
Yeah.
It's good for watching movies. It's a little weird for music, I find. It also impacts the battery life pretty substantially.
Oh, okay. That's probably a deal breaker. It seems like it would be kind of gimmicky after a while.
So I put it like if I'm taking a nap and I put on like my sleepy playlist with the chill ambient and the noise canceling, I leave it on because it's kind of nice to hear like all the stuff chirping all around me and stuff. If I'm sitting in the living room watching a movie, I definitely leave it on because you get a pretty good soundscape. I wouldn't use it if I was just walking around listening to music in the downtown or whatever.
Right.
So the other thing about this is that they are saying that the transparency mode is better, which is a nice thing for people with in-ear noise blocking headphones. So like, I don't like walking around the city with in-ears in so that I can't hear what's going on around me, because I don't like somebody sneaking up on me and whacking me on the back of the head with a sock full of quarters or something.
Mm-hmm.
And there's right now the current transparency mode on the first gen ones is a little bit noisy. It tends to pick up everything kind of at a high level. They're saying that they filter out the annoying noises better, like buses and stuff like that. So presumably you'll be able to hear the person sneaking up behind you to blackjack you, but maybe you should look extra careful when you're looking around and make sure you don't get nailed by the bus.
Don't get hit by a bus.
Yeah, don't get hit by a bus.
That's the official Tech Pod recommendation.
The other thing that is super smart is that they added a lanyard loop and a speaker to the case, so you can make the case beep when you've lost it and can't find it.
Okay, I was going to ask when I saw this in the notes. I was like, what exactly is the use case for this? Besides, I mean, whatever. I used Find My iPhone to ping my iPhone in the apartment yesterday because I couldn't find the phone, so I get that part. But
yeah, so this literally lets you use Find My iPhone to ping the AirPod case. Okay. You've always been able to do it with the AirPods, but they won't do it when they're inside the case because they're off then. So basically, if you lose the AirPods and they're in the case, you have to walk around with the phone doing the am I near or far, and then the Bluetooth thing says, oh, you're within like 3 feet, and you have to then dig through the sofa cushions to find it.
That sounds like kind of a fun scavenger hunt.
It is a little bit fun, I would say. I'm sorry, is that the only intended use for that speaker? Like when I saw that, I mean, like kind of little tiny portable Bluetooth speakers are still a thing that people buy. I didn't know if this was intended. It's too small for that.
Okay, yeah, I figured.
Yeah. You can scan your ears with the iPhone's depth camera now. You can do that for like when I installed iOS 16, it asked me to do that for my Pro ones, and I did it. I couldn't tell any difference. So
truly, Mark Cerny ahead of his time. Now here is Apple.
Yeah,
here is one of the world's most valuable companies now getting in on the ear shape economy.
I had to move my hair out of the way of my ear. Complaint. It was like, hey, we need an unobstructed view of your ear. I wonder if they're actually scanning or if they're just comparing the shape to ears that they've modeled, and they modeled enough ears that they're like, oh yeah, you have ear 173. So that's what we'll do.
There are only so many ear shapes in the world.
The fact that this supports Bluetooth 5.3 is, I don't know if that's a big deal, which just highlights the fact that we're overdue for a Bluetooth episode. You
mean our Bluetooth series, our 18 episode series?
Yeah,
the entire history of Bluetooth, and particular emphasis on Bluetooth audio codecs.
The Bluetooth legacy. We're just going to devote 2023 to Bluetooth. It's going to be the year of Bluetooth. 52 episodes back to back to back.
We've been trying to do more topic episodes, and then Bluetooth came up, and now I'm kind of just intimidated. Like normally it'd be like,
it's
we should do a
man.
Bluetooth episode. It's hey, we have a topic in our pocket that we should just do. But yes, tackling Bluetooth kind of intimidating.
Brad, is that a topic in your pocket, or are you just happy to see me?
Let's just move on.
They don't support Apple lossless. So I think the only, and I can't remember if the Max does, none of the other AirPods support Apple lossless music. I don't know that I care about that personally, because I'm not going to buy music that's lossless from Apple. It does support all the Dolby stuff that Apple Music supports now. And I would quantify this as somebody who loves their AirPod Pros. This is firmly in the, when I need to replace my AirPod Pros, I will get whatever the current version is, but I'm not like dropping the old ones and running out to get something new.
Definitely not. When you said the words AirPods Pro Max, I had to go, wait, is it Pro Max or just Max? Sorry, it's just Max.
AirPods it's just Max. AirPod Max. It's the headphones.
I had to go Google that and remind myself what that was. Like, oh, right, they do ship a full-size over-ear pair of headphones.
A $500 extremely overpriced pair of headphones, yes.
I'm good. I'm still using my, God, what are they, JLab?
Yeah.
I'm still using the $30 pair of JLab Sport Athletic Bluetooth headphones that I bought 5 years ago. The cord, actually just, the insulation just split this week.
Ooh.
Just slap some electrical tape on there.
Well, so I was going to say the thing about
clear, in my defense, I wear them for exercise. Those are not intended to be nice headphones. Like,
yeah,
I theoretically, I want crappy headphones for that particular use case. But anyway.
Well, so the thing I was going to say about the AirPods in general is that they are, the more Apple stuff you have in your home, the better they are for you.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So like if you don't have Apple TVs, probably not great. But the ability to lay in bed or sit in the living room and watch TV without making noise that bothers everybody else in the house or other people sitting in the same room even is really, really nice.
Sure.
And you just bump them seamlessly using your phone from device to device. It's kind of magic. These also will do 2 connections at once. So if you get a call, if you're listening to music on your Mac or your iPad or your watch or whatever, and you get a call, it'll switch over immediately to the call without you having to do anything, which is it's unclear to me if that's a software feature that will work with the old ones or if that's a new thing that's hardware only. But anyway,
I wonder, there's more to talk about here. I started to say, I wonder if they will figure out wireless audio on the next Switch, because the Nintendo Switch is kind of the thing stopping me from getting something like these for travel.
Do they not? Well, they added an update that lets you do Bluetooth audio last year.
It's not perfect. It doesn't work with every set of headphones, and I believe even in the best case, there's still noticeable latency. I think I would have to double check that. It's not great. I hope they have it I hope they have a solution for the next one, because I don't want to have to keep traveling with headphones that have a plug on them.
Well, you can get a Bluetooth dongle that dangles out. Anyway, it's complicated is the TLDR. There are definitely audio protocols that support it, but I believe they require hardware support. So my guess is that Nintendo just didn't pony up for the right chip when they built the Switch 10 years ago now, or whatever however long it's been. Let's talk about watches.
Yeah.
It's March. It's March Sunday.
Smarch. I'm sorry, what?
Smartwatch. Smarch.
Ah. Okay.
Yeah. Lousy smarches. Is this a category you're curious about at all?
Yes. I was like, pending the details of this announcement, I was very seriously thinking about finally getting a watch, even though I never leave the house.
Well, the fitness side is nice.
What's that?
The fitness side is nice.
So yeah, that's like a huge use case for me, is that I currently bring my phone with me every time I go out and exercise, because it tracks, it's got whatever I'm listening to on it.
Yeah.
B, it tracks all of my activity, which is very motivating and nice to look at. And having something, I assume the watch can just fully take the place of that particular role, right? Like there's nothing in that use case that the watch can't just do without the phone nearby, right?
So it depends on which watch so you can get the watch that's just Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. You can get the watch that's Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, and cell. If you want to have streamed stuff, then you obviously have to have the cell if you're not taking your watch with you.
Sure. But they all have storage, right? Like I'm fine loading podcast onto the watch.
Yeah, it's like depending on your podcast client, you can load the, like Overcast lets me download podcasts to the phone, and it's fine. It works great. I mean, to the watch rather. So I've not had a cell connected, like I bought a cell connected watch just in case I wanted in the future, because Verizon paid me to gave me a rebate basically for buying it. Even I've not activated it yet. I don't intend to unless we start leaving the house again. The fitness stuff is nice. Like the ability to go out and like the ring, the whole 3 rings, the standing, exercise, and walking steps ring are really like kind of shockingly motivating, even for me, a notorious lazy ass. And I got one in January after I'd been in the hospital and was tired of having to type in my number to unlock my phone, which is the stupidest thing ever just because of the mask. It's good. I like it. It seems like it's a stable enough product now in terms of like the work that they're doing. Like the new models have what I would describe as a very minor SoC update. It seems like they didn't talk about performance at all.
Yeah. So yes, that's why I said pending the details of this announcement. Like, I feel like the Series 8 is, well, you said it. It is extremely incremental. Like, it seems like the kind of the same guts, barring a couple of new sensors. First of all, it is pretty tough to find specs on what is in the watch.
They don't talk about it because I think they think that it reached a point where it doesn't matter.
Maybe you're right, but so I think they did technically rev the name of the. It's not an SoC, it's a system in package, an SIP.
Oh, right, of course.
Is according to Apple. Anyway, I think they did rev the number from like the S7 to the S8. But
the knock last year was this exact same thing. Was that the 7 was basically the same specs as the 6 with some new sensors?
Okay, I want to say the screen got slightly bigger last year.
So
right?
The difference is they went with the edge-to-edge screen, and I think the 7 was the first one that had the always-on screen.
Oh, I think you're right. Yeah.
But the point was they went for battery life over performance, which is in my eyes the right choice.
Yeah, you're right. Actually, in a watch context, I think you're totally right. Especially seeing what the battery numbers are here. Like, it seems like we're finally getting to the point where you can make it a full day.
Well, so
and not worry about it.
On my 7, I've been if I don't do workouts, I get a full day. Well, okay. If I don't do workouts and I have my notifications set up so that they're not obnoxious, so it's just things that I actually need to be notified about, like text messages and important emails for work, and like not every Teams message that goes across my computer and Discord message. I usually get 36 hours on the single charge.
That's pretty good.
Workouts eat a lot of time, eat a lot of battery, just because it's constantly doing heart rate checking and blood ox monitoring and all that stuff. But it's I would describe it as a very usable device, and it means it also, even staying in the house all the time, it means that like while I'm working and need to be available, I don't necessarily have to be sitting in front of my computer or have my phone even on me and out all the time. Because if I'm waiting for a message, I get the notification, right?
Oh, that does sound pretty nice, actually. The use cases for this thing are just stacking up for me. Also, I use Apple Pay a lot now, and having something where I can just hold my wrist up to something in a store to pay for it. Also, you know what? I should probably get a watch.
Well, so between the Apple Pay thing, the Apple Pay I use a ton. I felt kind of embarrassed about it at first, and then it very quickly became like the least annoying thing possible because because it's always on and it knows it's on your wrist and it knows you unlocked it when you put it on.
Yeah.
You don't have to do the face scanning thing like you do when you use Apple Pay on the phone.
So how do you activate Apple Pay on the watch? Because even on the phone, I mean, just using a phone, it's pretty convenient, at least for...
You just double tap the wide button.
Okay.
And then it goes to whatever your default card is.
Got it.
Like it's a good device. I like it. I find it useful. Having the blood ox when I was sick was really nice because it meant that I could just share that health data with Gina and she didn't have to worry that my blood ox was dropping when I had COVID. Which is like a legitimate reduction in anxiety for her as she was sitting in the other room and not wanting to come in and stick my finger in the sensor and all that stuff.
You know, we've been talking about those 90s AT&T You Will commercials.
Yeah.
Like what you just described seems like a good version of the type of You Will stuff they were predicting 20, 30 years ago. Sharing your blood oxygenation with your spouse remotely is like a future sentence 25 years ago I would not have believed.
You're kind of right. It was pretty nice.
Yeah.
It was and it made her feel like it gave her a lot of comfort when she heard me in there hacking up a lung.
Sure.
That she didn't have to bother me and wake me up potentially to get me to check the thing. She could just look at the health data.
Yeah. So the new stuff on here are crash detection and temperature sense. Did they really not have temperature before this?
So They didn't have, I mean, I'm sure that the device has temperature sensing to see if the battery's catching on fire and stuff like that, but they didn't have something that I don't think they had a way that they felt like they could accurately measure the person that's wearing its temperature.
Yeah, that's what to be clear, that's what I meant. Yeah. Just because they've had such a health focus on this thing for so long, I'm kind of shocked that like tracking your temperature seems like kind of core to that mission, but I guess here we are.
Yes. Well, so the crash detection is on all the new devices. It seems like it's basically, we'll talk about it here, but it's on the iPhone 14. It's on the iPhone 14 Pro. It's basically a high G IMU accelerometer that goes up to, I think, 200 Gs, which is basically like you're driving at 70 miles an hour and you hit a telephone pole, dead stop. And that, if you've set it up, basically will notify emergency contacts and call 911. It seems like if you have set that up in advance to let people know that you were in a serious accident.
It's grim, but it's a nice feature.
As they literally pitched it as, we hope this is a feature that nobody ever has to use.
Yeah, seriously. But like, I mean, that stuff works, right? Like the people have collapsed due to cardiac events and their watch called 911 stuff. Like those stories are out there, right?
Yeah. And it seems like they're setting up, I mean, we'll talk about it more on the phones, but it seems like they're setting up like an intermediary to help filter out the bad calls and to relay stuff when
false positives, you mean?
False positives or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
My guess is it's going to be really hard to do a 200G false positive.
Probably. Unless you're on part of the Artemis mission or something. I don't know.
Well, you put your watch in a sock and then smash it into a cinder block wall. That would probably do it.
It sounds like a tested video waiting to happen.
Yeah, I know, right? The temperature sensing stuff is interesting. For fevers and stuff like that, presumably, but they put it primarily in terms of women who want to track menstruation and ovulation cycles.
Huh. See, I would not have known the temperature was useful for that, but of course I wouldn't, because
it's not come up.
I'm not the intended audience, but that's cool that they put that in there, and then it's also very interesting. I'll let you mention the next point here. That they addressed the privacy aspect of this.
Well, so yeah, the ovulation thing, for people who don't know, if you're trying to figure out when you're ovulating, then you take your temperature at really, really tight intervals throughout the day, and you try to do it at the exact same times so that you can see from day to day when changes happen, and like slight increases in temperature indicate that you're ovulating. That stuff they made a very explicit point to point out that everything that lives in their particular cycle tracking app, which is where, like period tracking and ovulation and stuff like that only lives in the protected area on the phone if you use Face ID or a passcode.
That's so kind of, hang on. I feel like that if just sort of sails by here. Like, what if you're not using Face ID or a passcode? I mean, granted, almost everybody does, but still, like, if you don't use those things,
then the protected area isn't protected.
Okay.
So the protected area is protected with the passcode, and all of the normal rules apply about biometrics versus passcodes. So like if you live in a state where your state law enforcement is prosecuting people for getting abortions and things like that, or having miscarriages, and if you live in Alabama, for example, probably don't use Face ID.
Yeah.
Because the law about a cop holding up the phone in front of your face to unlock your phone for search and seizure is really muddy, but basically you can't be forced to type in a passcode, and you can be forced to look at your phone.
Yeah. What's the legal distinction? Is something you have versus something you know. Is that right?
I am not a lawyer. Okay. But the upshot is, be careful with this shit if you live in a state where your law enforcement is kind of fascist and doesn't believe that abortion is a right.
It's of course despicable that we even find ourselves in this situation, but it does kind of reinforce my idea that Apple seems the most privacy focused of the big tech companies, which granted is a low bar.
On a fun thing you'll notice if you go to the iPhone and watch page and all that on the apple.com, as you scroll between the big hits, there is a privacy note between every single one of the big hits. Okay. So it's like, hey, we turned on the do not tracking thing so that apps won't track you from session to session and from blah, 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 blah without your knowledge. They're really hitting privacy hard.
Yeah.
So the other watch, so that's the Series 8. The Ultra is basically the same guts in a sturdy case, in an adventurer, explorer / scuba diver case.
And it's got the flat face.
And it has the flat face, which is what makes it sturdier.
This has been rumored for years now. I mean, it's just like the phones went from a rounded design to a flat design as of the 12, was it, or the 11?
10. Flat design started in the 10.
God, did it really?
Yep.
I thought the 10 still
With
had the rounded glass edges.
Nope.
A little bit.
Really? Nope, still flat, but it had the rounded corners, but they were flat. The glass was flat.
But they've gone further in the last 2 years. They went back to the kind of hard edges that look like the iPhone 4.
That started with the 10. It's been the same design for a long time.
Wow. Okay.
It's like 5, 6, 7 years now almost.
Like after I kind of fell off caring about the annual phone refresh, they all blur together.
The last one with the curved glass was the 7 or
8.
Was 8? Was there an 8?
The 8 and the current SE, they all still have that same design from the 6. The 6 to the current SE are all basically the same.
Yeah, whereas the 10 and on were pretty much the same design as the old 5, but just blown up with the notch.
4 and 5. The 4 and 5 are the best iPhones. So
I think the 5S was my all-time favorite, probably.
Really? I never had a 4. I think the 4 looks cooler than the 5.
The squattier one looks. Yeah. Anyway, it would be hard to use a screen with that size screen anymore.
Oh, I mean, the size obviously is not workable. Anyway, so yeah, like I've been keeping my eye on watch rumors for the last couple of years, and yes, the rumor keeps surfacing. Like, oh, they're going to go to because the current watch kind of looks like a bubble of glass.
Yeah, it's
very rounded.
It looks like a capsule.
Yeah,
like it looks like a fat capsule.
Right, and so I would say the majority of high-end watches don't share a design like that. They're more kind of flat, hard edge watch face.
It definitely looks like its own thing. The Ultra, I really like the way it looks. So the case is made out of titanium. It doesn't have the curved bezel, as you said, so it's a flat face bezel.
Yes, I have desired a flat Apple Watch for a long time, and the fact that they finally did it and it's twice the price.
We'll get to that, but the crown is bigger, so it works with gloves, which is a problem with the current one. If you live someplace cold, like you can have thick, chunky gloves on with this thing because it's a big knurled knob that looks really cool.
Yeah.
It's waterproof to 100 meters. The depth gauge works to 40 meters, which is pretty typical for like dive for inexpensive to mid-tier dive watches. I don't think normal divers go beyond 40 meters. Like 40 meters is 120 feet, which is the outer limit of what PADI certifies for like recreational divers. Usually people don't go much below 60 feet.
I would not have even considered the idea of a dive watch product category until you said it. I guess it makes sense, but I mean, I assume there's a lot more than just time on your average dive watch.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, when you're diving, you have to measure, you basically track the time you're at different depths to understand how much nitrogen your blood has absorbed so that you can diffuse that out on the way out without making bubbles that will give you the bends.
Without getting the bends.
Yeah. You can get a subscription based. So, okay, they pitched it as like mountaineering, extreme sport, or not extreme sports, but like extreme athletes and scuba divers as the markets for this. But really what they're saying is, hey, we finally made a high end Apple Watch that's not just a status symbol. Because if you think about the edition watches, which started at like $1,000 usually, they always were either like gold or some like crazy white ceramic or some like it was normally the exact same watch as the other one, just in something that was more expensive. It's stupid unless you're really wealthy and you don't give a shit, in which case go nuts. But yeah, this is actually a more like they actually have made a more functional device here. It seems like.
Yes, for double the price, there are actually features that at least help justify the extra price. That said, this is going to be widely used as a status symbol.
I was going to say, like, you're not going to go see I'm not going to go to a business meeting in the Valley that there's not one of these on the table in a month. I have no doubt.
Yeah.
It's the thing. So I'm more familiar with I stopped diving about 15 years ago.
Wait, what?
What?
Oh my God. All this time, I did not realize you were speaking from experience.
Oh yeah. No,
you were a diver?
So I started scuba diving in the mid 90s when I was in high school.
Wow.
Early 90s, I guess, when I was in high school, and stopped in like early 2000s.
Where were you going? Because had you moved by that point? Because I was going to say, we discussed last week, you grew up in a fairly landlocked situation.
There are lakes, man. I learned to scuba dive in the lakes of Northeast Tennessee, and then went to Florida. We went to Florida a lot. So we went to like Pennicamp and Key West and the springs in Central Florida and stuff like that.
Yes. Get yourself some of that nice, clear ocean water. No mucky lakes.
Well, the lakes, the lakes are clear like the trick about lake diving is it's very much clearer in the spring before a bunch of boats have stirred up all the silt on the side of the thing by making wakes all summer.
Sure.
So when there's lower traffic, it's much clearer. Anyway, it doesn't matter. When I started diving, dive computers were a really expensive novelty that nobody trusted. By the time I was done diving, it was like the way everybody learned to do their dive tables, and you carried a table as a backup just in case something went wrong with your computer, but it never did. And everybody always used computers, but they were really expensive. When I looked to see what a cheapo dive computer costs now, it's like $200 to $300.
Yeah.
Good ones are much more. Like
it seems terrifying.
If you're not claustrophobic, it's fine. If you're claustrophobic, it's probably not for you.
Yeah. It just seems like a lot of split-second decisions and like things to keep track of. And like if it goes wrong, you're in some serious trouble.
Look, why do you think I like battle royales? I love split-second decisions that are life-threatening.
I guess so. We probably don't need to get into it. I got on a kick of reading like cave diving stories for a while.
Those people are fucking insane.
Yeah. So like that, I mean, okay, if you're telling me that cave diving is like a whole extra echelon of dangerous and terrifying above regular diving, then sure.
So, okay, the rule for recreational divers is you never want to be someplace that you can't just go straight up and get to air.
Mm-hmm.
So like wreck diving, cave diving, even getting under overhangs and stuff like that is something I would never do.
Sure.
I am the most conservative diver you've ever seen. I don't think I ever went below 55 feet, 50 feet. It's like, no thanks to cave diving. Those people are literally, it's like when the outcome from cave dives, if things go wrong, is you just take the regulator out so you suffer less. That's going to be a no for me, dog.
Yeah. Is it just straight up hypoxia that you suffer from when you're down too deep for too long, or is there something else going on there? I'm not quite sure what the mechanics are, because like even when you have oxygen in the tank, technically, like you can still end up in a bad situation, right?
Nitrogen narcosis. So once you get to a certain depth, then nitrogen becomes a little bit of a narcotic, and you get kind of high, and it gets higher. Your decision making gets worse and worse the deeper you go and the longer you stay.
Yeah. So that's exactly the type of stuff I was seeing with the cave divers, was people being down there for too long trying to do things. And yeah. So people do a lot of stuff to avoid that. They do like heliox and other non-nitrogen air mixtures. But like most recreational, that's professional like different certifications. Normal recreational divers dive compressed air, and like that's. But the reason that limit of 60 feet is because once you like, that's already in the place where I don't like, where your decision making is maybe slightly impaired depending on the person. Once you get below that, it starts to get hinky, and also your linger time at the bottom is really short at 60 feet because compressed air. Your lungs stay the same size, but the air gets smaller and smaller, the more compressed, the deeper you go. Anyway, if I was buying a dive watch, $800 for something that's pretty good seems like a pretty good deal. Sure. And there's also an extremely functional watch on land.
Yeah. Yeah. And is also a status symbol. So you look cool in your meetings with your cool orange wristband or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
The fine print does say you need a backup device. I'm pretty sure that most dive computers say that, which means that they want you to carry a dive table just in case the computer conks out while you're at depth, so you can like live. I'm interested. I wasn't able to find out whether AppleCare covers water damage on the Ultra. I would assume it does at this price point, but it may not. And I'm curious to see what the result on that is. I'm really interested to see reviews from people who actually use this kind of watch. Like my guess is that this has been rumored for long enough that they've been working on it for a long time and have actually consulted with people who know what who are familiar with the category, and it's not just speculative based on paper. But I'll be reading reviews, interestingly, and like this to me seems like a good one to buy on the Rev 2 probably rather than the Rev 1. I don't know. Like the hardware in general on the watch seems stable enough that it's not like I wouldn't feel worried about buying a watch that's $800 if you're going to use the stuff that's in it, or you think it's cool or whatever. Like I would much rather let me put it in a different way. I think they're still selling the stainless steel version of the main watch. I would much rather spend the money on this than get the stainless steel version at a $200 premium over the aluminum one.
Yeah. Once you're that close in price, this makes more sense, I guess.
Yeah.
Do you think
there's no small size one?
Yeah.
So it uses the 44/45 millimeter wristbands, which are compatible with it apparently.
And I believe there's only one model they all come with cell, right? Like there's no cellular free version of this thing.
Oh, I didn't actually look at that.
I believe that is the case.
There's 3 different models that come with the 3 different sport bands for different things. There's the mountaineering, it's a mountaineering, scuba diving, and I can't remember what the third one is.
Okay, yeah, I'm on the product page. Yes, there is only one SKU, one price for this thing.
Yeah, it's all $800 basically.
It looks so nice, but it's so expensive.
It is. It's the first one of these that I think has looked cool.
Yeah. Do you think the flat face trickles down to the regular line eventually, or is that something that's just going to stay exclusive?
It's a pretty good differentiator, I think.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Also, it's a bigger case, so they have more battery in there is the other thing. Oh, so they have the Alpine loop, the trail running loop, and the ocean band.
Okay.
For me, the Alpine loop, I might buy an Alpine loop for my watch just because I think it looks freaking awesome. It's like orange nylon. It has all this. It's really lumpy and cool. Anyway.
Going to get into mountaineering?
No, I just want the orange watch band.
Okay.
The last thing I want to do is mountaineering. That sounds horrible. So that's the watch. Like I think the 8, like the 8 doesn't seem like an upgrade for anything unless you don't have an always on watch already.
Yeah. Do you use that?
Yeah, all the time.
Do you ever eyeball it? So I mean, I know that the refresh drops to as low as 1 hertz to maintain battery. Do you ever like eyeball it and see what it does? I assume it's just like a very, very basic watch face that just ticks a numeral over.
So yeah, so the seconds hand goes away when it's in like the low power mode or whatever. Right. If you're on an analog face, it doesn't blink the numbers between the hour and minutes if you're on a digital face. And usually the colors fade a little bit too. So it's like a grayscale version of your watch face often.
Okay.
It works best if you use a black background watch face. You get much better battery life because it's an OLED is the main thing.
Well, hey, it's good that they figured all that stuff out now because always on has come to a phone.
Ooh, good transition. Yeah, you want to talk about pros first? Or you want to talk about 14s first?
Because it seems like the Pro is the only thing to talk about here.
Yeah, the 14 is
actually maybe we should start with the regular because like is this the smallest or like most incremental improvement to an iPhone ever or for a while? Like it's using practically the same SoC, which like seems unheard of to me in the iPhone line, but maybe that's not the thing to lead with.
Well, no, it's the 13 Pro SoC. So it's a better SoC than the baseline iPhone 13 had.
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot.
It was the 12 Pro SoC or whatever. It's all like the 14 is always one CPU back.
Yeah. I forgot that they had already been differentiating pretty heavily in the guts between the Pro and the regular.
Yeah, it's I mean, so the 14 is 6.1 or 6.7 inches. It has the Super Retina with the frame rate change to the dynamic frame rate this time screen. With the OLED, I don't know if it had this. I can't remember if it had the OLED with the XDR with the frame rate changes last year.
I don't believe. Wasn't that a Pro only feature?
I thought that was a Pro only feature, but that might have stopped being a Pro only feature last year. Like the first year the Pro came out, it was definitely not a base model feature. Last year it might have been. I can't remember.
Okay.
And the moment they post the new phones, the old shit goes away. So
yeah, of course. I mean that's 120 hertz, right? Up to
110 to 120. Yeah.
Right.
Depending on what you're using it as. It's got 6 CPU cores, 2 perf for efficiency, 5 GPU cores, 15 neural engine cores, which is their machine learning nonsense. So it's IP68 dust and splash proof, which is 6 meters for 30 minutes. But the TLDR is if you drop it in the toilet, it's not going to break. And as with all waterproof and dustproof stuff, that does degrade over time and use.
Have you ever dropped a phone in the toilet?
I don't want to talk about it.
Whoa. Oh my God.
Look, sometimes tragedy strikes, Brad.
Might have to break out the flamethrower after that happened.
There was a lot of rubbing alcohol involved. It has the 2 camera design. That's how you can tell it's a base model instead of the Pro. Interestingly, and I assume this is because of AR stuff, they're still doing the normal 26 mil equivalent f1.5 lens and the 13 mil equivalent f2.4 ultra wide lens. There's no telephoto. Like the third lens on the Pros is a telephoto lens. It's a newer sensor. It has better low light. It has the action camera stabilized mode that they showed in the trailer that actually looks pretty good. which basically uses like the extra pixels on the screen. So basically it lets you run and bounce the camera, and it stabilizes it by using this dead space on the sensor to move the image around in the opposite direction that the gyroscope detects you're moving, which is cool.
In real time?
In real time.
That's not a post-process?
Not a post-process.
Wow.
It has the cinematic mode, which I believe was a pro-only feature last year. I can't remember. Again, it was gone. And it supports 4K at 24 hertz now for video, which in the cinematic mode, which is like, if you want to shoot your student film on your iPhone, go nuts.
Yeah. That's pretty neat. That's possible.
Both of the new phones add the crash detection and emergency SOS via satellite.
I'm sorry, just to back up. Does the watch have the satellite SOS as well, or just the crash detection?
I don't believe the watch does.
Okay, so the satellite is just for the phones.
Yeah, I think you need the phones to have the antenna space in it to work with the satellites, but sure. I could be wrong. I doubt they went into this. I wonder, like, what protocol are we talking here? What, like, system? What's the name of the emergency system? Like, who deploys these satellites? Is this, like, I assume, kind of a widely used cross-brand sort of thing? I think so Garmin has had a service that is similar to this for a long time that they've charged $10 a month for. And it's basically for backcountry rescue. Sure. If you're someplace where there's no cell service, you can get help.
And I wonder if that just connects into the 911 phone system eventually. Like on your end, obviously it's satellite, but I assume it's tying into the same emergency services.
Well, so on the Garmin side, I don't know how that works because I haven't looked at that. The Apple thing uses Globalstar satellites. It's not coming online until November. So I assume that there's still some launches or something that has to happen, or regulatory approval or something for it to work. It's only in the US and Canada and doesn't work above 62 degrees latitude. But the short version of how it works is if you try to hit the emergency call button and call 911 and your phone gets no service, it says, hey, you get an option that lets you text emergency services. And then it asks you a series of questions, where are you? What's wrong? How soon do you need help? Yada, yada, which the phone then bundles those out, and whether you want to notify your emergency contacts where you are and what's happened, it bundles those up and compresses them and then tells you how to connect to the satellite. And basically you need to be with an unobstructed sky. Inside won't work. Light foliage dramatically extends the time it takes to send the message from like 15 seconds to more than a minute in some cases. But the phone will walk you through a series. Like, you don't have to aim it up at the sky. The phone, if you need to change it, it'll say, okay, move it to the right. And it gives you like green light as you get stronger signal. Oh, wow. Is what it looks like.
That sounds neat. That all sounds doable if you are, let's say, still hardy and hale in the middle of your emergency. If you are like seriously incapacitated and injured, I don't know that you're going to be able to handle that much.
My immediate thought was, with the guy who had to saw his leg off in the movie, in the movie, because he got stuck under the rock, he's in a canyon, probably boned still, would be my guess.
Yeah.
But for example, I have a relative who broke their hip on a mountain biking camping trip, right? Like, they were pedaling down, felt a bad feeling, and then like they didn't have a way to get him out without him continuing to ride down the mountain. So he basically,
Are you saying they broke their hip on the bike?
On the bike.
Oh, I thought you meant they like took a bad spill and broke it by hitting the ground.
Fluke accident. Yeah.
Oh my God.
So he had to basically coast down the mountain and then get help pedaling, pushing the bike back up the hills as he was going for 6 miles or something.
Yikes.
And I think he probably would have happily gotten the people on the pickup trucks to come, or 4-wheelers or whatever, to come pick him up and haul him out rather than deal with that.
I can imagine.
So yeah, like broken ankles, broken legs, stranded, lost, stuff like that seems like the real, like my guess is mauled by bears is not the market use for this.
Sure.
But like, hey, I broke my ankle or I'm lost in the park is where this comes into play.
Yeah. Gosh. I mean, there have been some pretty high profile cases of people just being lost in the wilderness and dying of exposure over the last 15, 20 years. I mean,
yeah. I remember I've known people who got lost on road trips and got stuck in the snow and
right. Yeah. I was at CNET when the James Kim situation happened, and that was obviously incredibly tragic, and something like this, it seems like, could prevent things like that.
Yeah, exactly. I'm curious how it works when it's snowing. because snowing and raining, because that would affect line of sight as well, potentially, I think.
Sure.
I think that like this and the crash detection, which both of the new phones have as well, tells me that the safety stuff must really work for them.
Yeah. You mean as a marketing point?
As a marketing, as a upgrade motivator.
I mean, it's like, I am consistently impressed with this stuff, because if we went back, what's it been, 15-ish years since, well, I mean, we're on the iPhone 14, so I guess we can count. But like when iPhones were first becoming big, like a health focus, a human, like biological focus is not something I ever would have predicted for what these devices were going to be used for. So
no,
like for them to push this hard into that space and seem to do a pretty good job of it is pretty impressive.
Well, so I'm interested. I'm interested to see. So one of the other things worth mentioning is a lot of the stuff that's previously been watch only in terms of fitness now works in some limited capacity with the phone. Like if you put your phone in your hip pocket in a pair of yoga pants or in like your jeans when you're on a long walk, it'll track steps and stuff like that in the same way that the watch does. I haven't actually tested that yet. I just found out about it the other day. But yeah, and that's on. It seems like on most phones. It works on my old iPhone 13.
Yeah. Real quick before we move on from the satellite, did we mention the pricing stuff? Free for 2 years, they're saying.
Yeah, it's free for 2 years. Starts in November. No idea what it costs after that. My bet is that as long as you keep buying new phones, you keep getting the 2 years for free.
Yeah. Or if not, I wonder if they just roll that up into the kind of existing iCloud subscription stuff that they have.
I would hope so. I mean, that's a hard hit for Garmin. That's probably making pretty good money on $10 a month right now.
Sure.
The other thing about this is it seems like it goes through an emergency services like intermediary that Apple runs. So because most 911 systems don't accept text messages, is my understanding. So this text message comes in and then the Apple emergency rep person handles the transition to 911 service and or like park rangers or Coast Guard or whatever it is you need. And passes the information to your emergency contacts as well. It seems like you can't use this satellite texting to just, let your bros know that you're having some sick shreds out by the Baja or something like that if you don't have cell service. So
hopefully not. And then last point here, gosh, we have not even talked about the dynamic island yet.
That's the Pro.
First, yes. Is this the first generation that they have fully dumped physical SIM cards finally? I think
I think so. My 13 Pro has a SIM card on it right here.
Yes.
Yeah,
I'd have to take the case off. I want to say this new SE that I got also still will take a card. They acted as though this was the first time they've shipped a SIM card trayless phone. Yeah, that's the impression I got. I did the eSIM setup when I switched to this phone back in May, and it seems like the way to go.
The nice thing is if you lose your phone, people can't steal your SIM card and put it in another phone and then start using your service.
Yeah. And it took like 10 minutes. I just signed into the Verizon site and it was for a phone company experience. It was amazingly seamless.
Yeah. I'm like, I don't know. I don't have strong feelings about this one way or the other. One nice thing is you can put multiple phone lines on the eSIM, which is a thing that's harder to do. You have to get a special SIM card usually to do that. Sure. Without the eSIM. So,
all right. So
this is the big boy.
So we should, and I'll just mention same notch on the 14 because it's not the same notch on the 14 Pro.
Yeah. The 14 Pro, you want to just get right into it? You want to talk about it?
We really buried the lead here. The dynamic island seems to be all anybody actually was talking about.
I'm okay. So the TLDR on the dynamic island is that instead of having a notch that comes down from the bezel, from the edge of the phone, they have put the phone sensor a little bit lower in the screen and then basically designed a black bar that is where all your notifications spawn to mask that notch,
right?
That slice. And it is, I think I wrote in the notes that it's the most aptly of Apple solutions to a problem that I've seen in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious how notorious notch haters and otherwise irrational folk feel about this thing.
I think it looks better. I think it's an improvement. Yes.
Okay.
Having it be integrated in the screen rather than being a giant carve out of the screen, I think I don't know why I need to keep emphasizing this. My objection to the notch has always been entirely aesthetic.
Oh no, I understand.
Like there are people out there who seem to think I don't understand like the screen real estate geometry aspect of this whole thing. Like I get it. I just think it looks ugly, but this looks less ugly.
I think this makes the hole punch outs that some other phones do. So it's just a single hole.
Yeah.
Look real silly.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I mean, at least they're repurposing the space in some way, right? Like it's the same reason, it's the same reason the notch on that new MacBook I bought doesn't bother me because I installed Top Notch and it just hides it, like as long as you can integrate it into your UI in a way that looks tasteful, not a big deal.
Yeah.
And this seems like I need to see some more examples about how it like expands and like what some of the more unconventional use cases are for it. I mean, I saw a video going around that supposedly somebody had gotten Doom running in that space. I don't know if that was just
I think that was a joke.
I don't know if that was a fake or not, or if it was actually somebody with the SDK. I mean, it's possible.
Film.
I mean, they did that. They did that on the touch bar on the MacBook, like instantly. So
yeah, but nobody has the phones.
Oh, I know.
Twitter was sending around that same clip with Tennant playing in there, asking what's his name thought about it.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if these were just mock-ups or if the SDK I assume is out there.
Yeah, but the SDK wouldn't show that because that part of the SDK has probably been hush hush until yesterday.
That's fair. Do they not do? Well, you've never made an iPhone app, but like
I have.
Have you?
Yeah, we made an iPhone app at Foo.
Oh wow, I did not know that.
Yeah, we did face capture using iPhone. I
assumed they did like the Playdate thing where you can like a little simulator on.
Yeah, but it would have been an iPhone 12 or 10. Sure. The old. They do not leak the shape of the new iPhone and the new iPhone features in the SDK.
That's fair. I mean, a lot of the leaks do come out of the SDK, but it's more like function names and stuff like that. API calls.
Well, that's why when like they have new widget formats like they do in iOS 16, often you don't see the new apps until the day the thing ships. Like the iOS developers who care about that stuff will be desperately working to integrate those new API calls in so that like Spotify music preview, Spotify album art previews in the dynamic in the capsule,
the
dynamic island. Sorry. It's like this is like the follow up to the Lonely Island. It's like their next evolution. It's like Jefferson Airplane to Jefferson Starship, Lonely Island to Dynamic Island.
Hey, I mean, summer just started in the Bay Area as usual. So no better time for a dynamic island getaway.
The front facing camera area is a lot smaller than it was before. It's a lot thinner than it was before. And it's because they put the depth sensor that Face ID uses it's more behind pixels now. I think my take on this is I think it seems pretty cool. I have to stop you. Yeah.
And have you repeat what you just said. You literally just said the sensor is underneath screen now.
The depth sensor is.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's one step closer.
Yeah. The camera still has to have transparent pixels on top of it.
Yeah, that's the thing they seem to not. So I mean, the rumors out of like analyst supply chain-y type spaces have been steady for years that they've been trying to find a way to bury all of this under the screen.
Oh, I'm sure.
But I'm sure for an optical camera, that's not a trivial problem to solve.
Yeah, because you'll have the grid that you have to deal with. And anyway.
Yeah.
They demoed it minimizing album art. Like literally they showed the person swiping the Apple Music app up into the top bar of the thing and it showing a little tiny like 50 by 50 pixel album art cover, which is kind of cool.
It's neat. That's kind of cool.
Like, I don't know that it's going to change my life or make me feel better about how I use the phone or whatever, but it's neat.
It's kind of neat.
It also, I think it's an aptly, the reason I said it's the most aptly solution to a problem ever is because it only works if you control both how the notifications are displayed in the OS and how the hardware is built. Because like the Android manufacturers are going to knock this off and they're going to do terrible, terrible things, I think, for the next few years before Google eventually like replicates it in notifications.
Yeah.
Interestingly, when you do this on a phone running iPhone 13 running the beta, the notification bar is more traditional. So like when I play music on my phone and I swipe the music app up, it doesn't do the thing. It just goes back like that. It shrinks back to the app. So this is that is a 14 Pro specific feature.
Okay.
And then the other two things about the display are that it's always on. So like it does the same thing that the watch does where it kind of tones down. It seems like it grayscales out or tones down the image a little bit and has like the time and they've built these new kind of monotone widgets into the home screen. So you can do like your Fantastical calendar, like there's a spot for 3 to 4 small square or rectangular sized widgets.
Do you know is there any like actually shot off a phone footage out there of what the always on looks like at this point? Like not a manicured like product introduction video.
I'm sure that somebody has it up on the things that are probably posting today or posted late last night that I haven't seen yet.
Okay. Yeah. Cause I mean, Apple put out like side by sides, but those are obviously pretty tightly controlled. I assume they're pretty representative of the real thing.
Yeah. I would say like there are things that I don't trust them to be representative on necessarily, like to 2x the noise cancellation and stuff like that. I feel like the pictures are usually pretty representative of what the actual item looks like. And I would assume it's going to be very similar to how the watch works because it's basically the same technology.
Yeah, for sure. These side by sides, I mean, like it's significantly dimmer. Colors are pretty washed out, but like the important information is there. You can see the time. You can see the notifications.
It's worth mentioning this is a Android feature from like 8 years ago.
Okay. I don't know that.
Yeah, it has Android, when Android phones started shipping OLEDs in like, I don't know, 2013 or 2014, probably. First Pixels, I think, had always on screens for exactly the same stuff, time and a couple of notifications and maybe a widget.
Is burn-in, I assume, still is not a problem that has been entirely solved with OLED, right?
I have not ever experienced burn-in with my iPhone.
Well, are you keeping them long enough, though? Also, I
kept my iPhone 10 until the 12 came out.
Oh, well, that's a chunk of time.
4 years, I think.
But even that wasn't always on, though, is what I mean.
It sat on a charger on my desk on a lot. Yeah. Anyway, I don't know. I've not heard any complaints about OLED burn-in on the iPhone. It's almost been exclusively related to TVs for what it's worth.
Yeah.
It would be easy enough for Apple to wiggle the stuff on the screen so that it's not a problem.
Yeah. I got to tell you, I mean, are we done talking about the Pro?
No, there's a couple other things.
Okay, I'll let you finish while I'm sitting here looking at footage of the dynamic island.
I was going to say this. The other thing is that the display gets insanely bright now.
Yes. Was it like 2000 nits, I want to say?
It caps at 2000 nits, which is nuts.
Yeah. Because I mean,
I'm nuts for nits,
I really liked a dynamic island getaway as a title for this, but nuts for nits is also damn good. I haven't kept up with TV tech super closely the last 3 years, but I mean, I know like even like relatively recent nice OLED TVs are like 600 nits.
Yeah.
Like across the entire screen.
The 14 non-pro is 1200 nits peak, 800 typical. TVs don't have to get as bright because usually they're in controlled viewing situations, right? You're not outside in the desert looking at your phone.
Yes. And also again, that's like the entire screen at max brightness. Like when it's localized, they can go a lot brighter in smaller areas.
So the thing that this is interesting for is like even driving in the car through the Central Valley in California during the summertime, 2000 nits is like that. My phone is dim in the car driving through the valley in the summer. Like it's hard to see the screen sometimes, especially if you're wearing sunglasses. If you're in the desert, it's rough. If you're in the snow, it's rough sometimes. If it's sunny in the snow,
sure.
I'm interested to see what this looks like. Like the other thing is you're going to get brighter HDR video supposedly on it. It peaks at 1600. They say 1000 nits is typical for the screen. And I believe the battery measurements were measured at 1000 nits, but I'm not, that footnote was not written in a clear way. And like the other one, this is eSIM only. The last thing is the cameras. They have the image stabilization as well. The sensor, the lenses are a 24 millimeter 1.7 f1.7.8 1.78 main camera, a 48 millimeter f1.78 2x zoom. I messed this up. A 24 millimeter f1.78 main camera, which is like a normal, hey, I want to take a picture of somebody that's like 4 feet from me lens. The 13 millimeter f2.2 ultra wide, which is like panorama wide shot, fisheye kind of thing. A 77 millimeter f2.8 3x zoom. And then they have a fourth fixed zoom stop on the camera app that's 48 mil f1.78 2x zoom that's faked by using the center 12 megapixels of the main camera sensor. So it's a 48 megapixel camera sensor. Most people, if you're not shooting RAW, are going to shoot 12 megapixel cameras where they sample each pixel 4 times to reduce noise just on the device. If you care about noise reduction and you want to, you can shoot in a RAW format and do the denoising yourself with whatever tool you want. Pro photographers care about that. They showed landscape blow-ups that were like 6 feet tall on walls of galleries for this, which is kind of nuts for a phone. I'm again, this is a thing I would like to see. Landscapes are like the easiest thing to do that with, because like you can denoise a landscape really easily. If you have like a moving child or something, a moving person, it's going to be a lot harder.
Fair.
But yeah, this camera as always looks good. And then they have the normal stuff about the Bionics A16 Bionic being the fastest, best it's 16 billion. It has 16 billion transistors, which is nuts. Yeah.
So just to close the loop on my confusion earlier, this has been the model for several years now that only the Pro gets the new SoC and the regular gets the previous Pro's SoC. Is that correct?
I believe that started with the 12, but it may have been last year.
Okay.
They've been so since they started selling the $1,000 phones. So when the 10 came out, they sold the 10 and the 8 the same year. And the 8 was the $600 phone. The 10 was the $1,000 phone.
Yeah.
They started making bigger that next year or the year after, they started making a big Pro and a small Pro. They didn't call them Pros at that point, but I believe the 12 is when they started selling an iPhone non-Pro and an iPhone Pro. The naming on that started when they went from 2 cameras to 3 cameras, actually. And the naming on the iPhone whole line is a mess, because like iPhone Pro versus iPhone, like the big iPhone 14 is called the Plus. The big iPhone Pro is called the Max.
There's still a Plus?
The Plus is the big iPhone 14.
What? Why wouldn't they just use Max for big phone across the whole product line?
Because they want Max to be the one that is clear the best one.
Dude, what happened?
Their
product naming.
They've never everybody always says, well, they used to be good at product naming. They've never been good at product naming.
I mean, maybe not.
At one point they had a MacBook Air, a MacBook Pro, and like it's always been a mess.
I mean, like I've always just kind of admired. I mean, look, Steve Jobs is a huge asshole. Like, to be clear, every time you praise Steve Jobs, I feel like you have to like reassure people. I guess I get it. He was a piece of shit in a lot of ways, but like that whole thing about him coming back in the late 90s and just like flushing their entire product line. And he was just like, okay, we make 4 computers now. We make a desktop for consumer and professional, and we make a laptop for consumer and professional. That's it.
Very much so.
Like they have gotten so far away from that philosophy again at this point.
But I mean, also they sell 1 billion phones a year, and like that market segmentation is important.
Yeah.
They also sell the 13 totally right. mini still, like the 13 and the 13 mini are still available. The 12 is still available. Like there are 2 small phones. There's one with the button for the old people, and there's the one with this Face ID for the youngs. There's like this is a problem with the level of the scale at which they operate. I think that's maybe unavoidable.
Fair.
I don't know.
Fair.
I feel like the name scheme could still be more consistent, but like the people who know will figure out what they want. The people who don't will ask someone who does, I guess.
Fair.
And this phone is toilet safe too, just like the iPhone
14. You can rest easy then.
They made it waterproof because that was the number one way that people broke their phones, was dropping it in the toilet.
Is it PP proof?
I didn't ask. Luckily in our toilet incident, it was a clean bowl. So that was
that's good.
That was a good day. That was the upside.
So remind me again from the cold open, what's your timeline? Which one did you get and when?
I got the 14 Pro Max.
Okay.
So, I've traditionally been a Pro non-Max.
Okay.
And I realized, since I never wear pants that don't have big pockets, I just was like, I'm going to get the big one and not buy an iPad so I can read comics better on it.
Now that is embracing middle age, if I've ever heard.
Look, if I had gotten the non-Max, I would have it next week. So I'm being punished.
So we will have hands-on impressions then of I'm sitting here looking at their pitch video for the dynamic island and watching it expand and get bigger and add art to it. And
it looks fun, right?
It looks neat.
Yeah.
This is a market improvement over the shitty notch.
Wow.
Anti-notch pro island. I'm not gonna say I'm pro island. I would like for this to go away eventually, but this looks way better.
So Gina gets her phone next Friday. I'll let you know how it is then.
Okay, cool.
Like all in all, this was I think a pretty typical Apple event. iPhone announcement. I think the Ultra Watch was a kind of a surprise that it was actually something good.
Yeah.
I expected it to be like an updated edition, which is now a dead product. They don't have a new edition watch this year.
Huh. Yeah. It seems like that's replaced that. I am staring at this watch stuff, unsure of what to do.
Well, I mean, look, I know your normal purchasing cycle for this sort of thing. So when they do the Ultra 2 next year, you'll be in a good spot.
Oh, wait. So you're saying just wait another year?
No, I'm saying that's what you're going to do regardless of what you want to do. So
I mean, like I said, I was planning to buy a watch here. I mean, like did we even talk about the watch, the new SE? I guess, are they calling it the SE2 or does it?
Yeah, the SE2, like it's basically the same one with the newer SIP, whatever.
That thing is $249 and it's got the same guts as the good ones.
It doesn't have the always on screen.
Oh, it does not.
Which is like the always on was a deal breaker.
That's probably a deal breaker actually.
And the bigger battery is the battery life is important. Like the difference between it making it all day most of the time and making it 36 hours when you don't do a workout and easily 29 or 30 when you do, it was pretty substantial for me.
I wonder what the kind of trade-in cycle resale value of watches is. If you keep them in good shape, I assume pretty healthy.
I'll let you know in a year or two. I'm not getting a new watch this year unless I decide to splurge and get an Ultra, which I can't imagine. I was debating
like maybe I get the cheapest 8 right now and then like trade up in a couple of years or something.
Well, so part of the problem is that the cheapest 8 is going to be the small size, which is going to look dainty for you.
Okay, well, I don't mean the cheapest, but like, like not the extravagant, like top of the line 8.
I think,
like probably no cell.
Yeah, I think no cell. I'm curious. I don't know. Like if at this point, if I were buying a watch, I would either buy that one or the Ultra. I think
that's the thing. I love the look of the Ultra, but I can't fucking justify $800 and.
I mean, my guess is that the resale value of if you sell the 8 while the 8 is the current hotness, your resale value will probably be pretty good. So if you decide you want to upgrade soon, also you have 14 days to send it back. If you really like it, you just get the 8 then. Anyway, I don't know. I don't. This is the first time I would not feel bad buying the expensive watch.
You think so? I mean, you even said earlier, like maybe wait for the second gen of that thing. But
I mean, I would definitely wait for reviews. And if the reviews are good from people who actually use it for diving or whatever thing you want to use it for, maybe throw the dice.
You think the watch hardware has plateaued? I mean, you were like the number one.
Yeah.
On the list of people who were upset about the not ready for prime timeness of the original Apple Watches.
Anybody who bought the first 3 or 4 years worth of Apple Watches kind of got screwed.
Yeah.
Because like the way I look at it, a watch is a 5+ year item at that, especially at that price point. Like a $50 or $100 Seiko should be a 5-year item, right?
Right.
A $500 Apple Watch should be 5 years or longer minimum. And none of those watches lasted 5 years. So like, is the 7 going to last 5 years? I don't know. At least they're replacing batteries in them now. So, I feel reasonably okay. I'm curious if they maintain the water resistance on the Ultra once you replace the battery. B, I'm curious if they made the battery big enough that they don't have to dip into the top and bottom 20% so that the batteries will last a dramatically longer number of charge cycles. And that stuff will come out in reviews. We'll find out. So the other thing is like stuff like the Dive computer is not a built-in feature. It's a thing you have to subscribe to a service for, which is I like, given how easy it is to turn on and off app subscriptions on iOS with the App Store, I kind of don't mind that because is like I am not a diving, even at my most divingness. I wasn't a dive every month person. I would sign up for it when I was going diving and turn it off the next month.
Sure.
So yeah, like I thought it was pretty good. One thing that it does always stand out when we talk about Apple stuff is that they give everything stupid fucking names.
Mm-hmm.
that make it really hard to know what they're talking about. So they talked about the photonic engine, and I was madly Googling to find out what the hell they were talking about because I couldn't remember that one. And it turns out that's the machine learning applied to low light photos.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, of course. Makes sense. There's a bunch of others. We talked about some of them. The internal hardware not changing is probably okay. Like these are much more stable products than they used to be. Right. That's the big thing. I mean, the power consumption's lower, which is probably the best outcome for phones at this point.
Sure. Yeah.
Like I don't expect them to get faster, but I do like batteries that last longer or batteries that are smaller so they weigh less, one or the other.
Yeah.
And let's see, the other big thing that they didn't have is there's no Wi-Fi 6E in these phones, which is like it's like 6E is brand spanking new. So I'm not super surprised.
At the previous or even this version, I mean, I assume they have regular Wi-Fi 6, right?
Yeah, the 13 has regular Wi-Fi 6.
Yeah.
I don't. It doesn't feel like an omission this year. There's not really a huge downside to not having 6E devices, non-6E devices on your 6E network. If you have one of the handful of routers or APs that supports 6E right now, it seems like it'll be a problem if they don't have it next year. But they never. Like they almost never support the brand new standards right out of the box.
Right.
This is Apple being Apple. And then the other thing is all of these run iOS 16, which having been running the beta for the last week or so, it feels like a really big update.
Yeah, I'm curious about a lot of the stuff they're doing. Should we do an iOS 16 episode? Do people want to hear that? Do people want to hear that? Let us know.
Yeah.
In the comments or on the Discord server.
Yeah, send an email to techpod@content.town and we'll tell you.
Like redesigning and allowing customization of the lock screen is kind of big for a company that has been very set in its ways in a UI capacity on the platform.
I'm going to say that is a side effect of the work that they've done on the focus system, like the anti-distraction stuff.
Okay.
Because you can tie the lock screens and the home screen layouts and the home screens that you choose to individual focus settings, which to me says, hey, we think health is important, which probably means we think that the damage we're doing to your attention span with these devices is an issue. Dude. And thus we're going to address that with some software design.
This very morning, we were getting ready for this podcast. I had a whole course of action laid out in front of me. I was brushing my teeth. It's like, okay, need to make coffee. I'm going to feed the guinea pigs. I'm going to do X, Y, and Z morning stuff.
Yeah.
Happened to pick up my phone in the middle of that stuff. And like next thing I knew, I had just been standing there for 5 minutes looking at the phone and completely forgotten what I was doing. Like
it's my favorite thing to look at that isn't my child.
I think there are some, I mean, this is not some great revelation, but there are some insidious psychological things going on.
Yep. So
maybe we'll talk about it soon. Sound off in the comments below.
I think like rather than just go feature by feature down the list and talk about all the stuff that they've added, the thing that's interesting to me is talking about how I'm curious how you're going to integrate that stuff and if you're going to fool with it, because it's a little fiddly to set up. But even a week in, I'm already feeling the benefits of like at nighttime when I shouldn't be on my phone as much, the home screen looks like the planet Earth and it's the Earth at night. And at the daytime when I'm at work and I want to look at my phone and see something that makes me happy, I look at my child. And the different lock screens and the different home screen layouts and the different widgets on the home screen and stuff. It turns out I think are super useful. I need to make one for when we're podcasting.
Yeah, maybe we should talk about that. That just goes to more general like mobile device usage habit stuff that is probably interesting to get into. So after that drops and we both have used it a good
deal. And neatly that stuff integrates across you can change your watch home screen. Like you could all do a lot of this stuff before with shortcuts, but it works much better and it's much easier to set up now. The other thing that changed, I don't know if they talked about this during the event because I might have missed it. But the Apple Care Plus now supports unlimited damage repairs. It used to be that you had like 2 a year, I think. And it's with a fee each time. You always had the fee. It's $29 for a screen or back glass, $99 for like, I assume other stuff, which is like backing over your phone with your car or something, I suppose. I don't know. It's ongoing subs get converted over to that. It's unclear if you bought the single payment last year, like the single payment Apple Care when you bought your last device, if that gets rolled over to the new thing as well. And that's it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I enjoyed. I'm more excited about iOS 16 than I think anything else. But the capsule, what is it they call it? The dynamic
island.
It's just such a stupid name.
I know. I love it.
The dynamic island seems neat. You gonna get a new phone, Brad?
It just sounds tropical, you know.
Yeah.
Like it conjures images of a tropical getaway, a tropical vacation.
See, I've been playing a lot of Fortnite, so I was thinking it was a capsule. Like I expect to open that thing and there'll be like a Kamehameha in there, maybe a Nimbus cloud, you know.
The first time you move your Spotify album art up into the dynamic island, it's just like you're sitting on a beach sipping a Mai Tai.
Which Jimmy Buffett album are you going to load first, Brad? That's the question.
No. Also, no, I just bought a phone 3 months ago. I'm not buying a new phone.
Yeah, you could give that one to your parents is the thing. Just pass that down the line.
I am perfectly happy with the very inexpensive iPhone that is working just fine that I bought.
And it's very responsible of you. Okay. I guess that's it for us.
Yeah.
Thanks for, this is the part of the show where we thank our patrons. This is a long episode.
Yeah. Thank you, patrons. It was very information dense. Let us know if you're still into, Apple episodes, recap episodes, like current events-y type stuff.
There's a Google event next month.
Oh?
Mm-hmm.
Do you mean a mobile event?
I believe it's a Pixel / related devices event.
Should we do an Android episode?
It's a good question. Should we?
I mean, I would have to get my hands on like modern Android hardware to speak to, or run BlueStacks, I guess. I don't know.
We'll find out if people want that by emailing techpod@content.town or posting in the Discord in the episode ideas form, which was created last week before.
Yes.
But now we want to thank our patrons because, as always, Brad and Will Made a Tech Pod is a 100% listener supported podcast. So thank you, patrons.
Thank you, patrons.
And a very special thank you. If you would like to find out how to support the show, I should tell you that because that's important. It's early today. You can go to patreon.com/techpod. That's patreon.com/techpod. And for as little as $2 a month, you can sign up to help us keep the show going. As always, a very special thank you to our executive producer tier patrons, including Paddle Creek Games, makers of Fractured Veil, Andrew Slosky, Bunny Crimes, and the Return to Work Blues, period. Wedge, Joel Krauska, Twinkie has a new pick in place, and James Kamek. Thank you all so much. We appreciate you.
Yes, we do.
And I think, there's a new FOSPod this week.
Oh, right. Yes. We just posted an Octoprint episode of the FOSPod with Gina Hoyska.
Gina, we had a fantastic conversation with Gina about Octoprint and what it's like maintaining an essential piece of software for a 3D printer users, and where she is with the project and what's coming next, and how it's changed her life, both for the good and kind of for the bad too. We kind of got into it. It was good. It was a good talk.
Not only, she talked about working on the project and open source and et cetera, but I also just learned a ton about the 3D printing pipeline from talking to her. She had a lot of interesting stuff.
You've never really used a printer before, have you?
Pretty much the stuff you guys did in the tested office.
Maybe we should get you a printer and you should get real into 3D printing, Brad.
3D printer is very much it's number 8 on the list of things to get once I have a garage.
You could print little hutches for the piggies. You could print like a Millennium Falcon that they hang out in. So you can find that at fospod.content.town. We will be back next week. Thank you all for listening. See you then. Bye-bye.